It's time for Cats Talk Wednesday. Small town and big city joined forces. Vinny Hardy of Lynch, Kentucky, and Terry Brown of Louisville, Kentucky, team up to give you free-flowing, laid-back sports talk. Focus on Kentucky Wildcats, as well as pertinent information in the NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball.
That's what we try to do each and every week. Another episode of Cats Talk Wednesday. Got Terry T.B. Brown back. Been traveling, been back to the home state, been back to Kentucky.
Yeah.
We got our guest jumping in right off the bat as well here on the Beard Street Network. Zachary Jordan, a screenwriter from LA. So we got to talk about that. And also a huge WNBA fan. I was just scrolling Twitter. We've been following each other for a long time. And I saw your bio and stuff. I said, well, let me just reach out and see if you want to talk about the W a little bit. So TV been talking about it for the past 4 or 5 weeks, several episodes. We had a little dose of the W. So it's playoff time. So what better time to jump in there now, man? So I'm gonna get out the way and let y'all have it. But man, Zach, tell us a little about yourself, man. I'm like that screenwriter, that's intriguing. So what's that, man?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you again. I mean, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm based in LA, but I'm originally from Salt Lake City, Utah. If you've never been there, it's not the place to really go under my suggestion. But it was actually my introduction into the world of women's basketball. Oddly enough, I went to undergraduate school at the University of Utah, and I actually practiced against the women's basketball team there for 5 years. And it was such a fascinating world because I came from the space where it was like I really didn't have any respect. This is 2009. I didn't have any respect for women's basketball, and I just didn't know it. And then I get thrown in, to the mix with these incredible athletes, and I'm like, wow. I fell in love with the game at such a fundamental level and a really, really tight, close-knit level. And I come from a basketball background. I ended up staying on working summer camps and film sessions, and was like the assistant video coordinator in the 2016-27 season for them, 17 season. And then grad school took me out to LA for screenwriting, and which has just been a journey in and of itself. But yeah, I recently wrote on a Netflix show, Ginny and Georgia, season 3, and I'm just it's the kind of thing where after work every day, I'm especially when it comes to women's basketball or when the W is on, it's like, this is what we're throwing on. My fiance and I, she played Division III basketball, and it's just, honestly, I'm so happy with the growth of the game because this is something I've been talking about for years and years.
Well, I'm late to it. I'm new to the WNBA for this year, but like I was telling you before we came on, I'm right here in the middle of Iowa in the eye of the Caitlin Clark everything. So once she made that leap, it's like, oh, you can get a league pass for $35. And I mean, that's great. I will waste $35. A couple of Starbucks runs is $35. So I was like, oh yeah. And so we were watching all the Fever games. Yeah. But then it was like, okay, we'd watch the Fever game. Now let's go watch Phoenix and Seattle. And so what I've been telling Vinny, my thing has been, yes, I'm here for Caitlin, but let me see what else is going on. And it's been a pleasant surprise. Like for me, I love the way Minnesota plays offense and defense. Like Minnesota, you got Nafisha Collier, who is fantastic, but they got like a lot of role players that play those roles really well. Yep. Like Minnesota's not a stacked team, Vinny, but they play so well on both ends. It's really a joy to watch. Like the ball's always where it's supposed to be.
Always.
And if you love basketball, that's it. Like it's always moving. And then when Nafisha needs to do her thing. So it's been a joy to I remember that person in college and now watch them in the WNBA. So it's been great. And I know I'm not alone with people showing up and really appreciate what these women have been doing for years.
Yeah. No, I mean, you hit it on the head, especially like Minnesota is a great example of a team who, honestly is a little reminiscent of like early 2000s, mid 2000s Spurs, basketball. You know, the San Antonio Spurs. They've got star power for sure, but it's not like in particular Nafisa Collier. But you know, they've got Courtney Williams is a great point guard. Kayla McBride has all-star season. She's been playing really well. But the thing about them is their bench is so deep, and like you said, they're role players. So their role players are so good at their roles. It feels like they can, you know, you can take their front five off, bring in a whole, almost really like a hockey substitution, five, and things are moving. They play this really fascinating defensive style too, where everything's focused on like the nail on the free throw line, in the middle of the free throw line. So if you pay close attention to like the way they defensively rotate, there's always somebody protecting that spot. So everything's forced baseline. And with their length and then their ability to get out in transition, pretty much everybody can handle the ball well. It's such a fun team to watch.
And watching them play the Fever, that was, I think, the one team and the Aces, like, they didn't beat. Like, because the Fever like to get up and down, Vinny, and Minnesota was like, oh, word? And so those games are in the 90s, and it's just like, you know, just it's fun to watch. And watching New York and seeing what Atlanta's doing, I'm kicking myself in the butt, Zachary, because I'm like, I've been missing out, but I'm here now to watch all this.
That's what's so beautiful about it. Is like, especially if you talk about Indiana's ability to push pace this year. Caitlin, the one thing, you know, there's a lot of questions. Would her game translate when she got to the W? Shooting typically translates, you know, over from college to pros. I wasn't too worried about that. Obviously, I feel like she was going to force shots and things like that. But the thing I felt like she would change and we'd start to see is, you know, if we were going to stay in the world of comps, she brought this like Steve Nash style Phoenix Suns run and gun pace to the game. And I've got my criticisms in terms of their coaching staff and the way they do things, handle their rotations and things like that. But I will say, I think her ability to, you can't fall asleep. She's going to hit you over the top every time. And the interesting thing about the way she plays is, if you watch closely, she has about 6 or 7 assists that she should have every game. That people, you know, whether it's like a layup that is missed or an open three, you know, it's just. And then she also has a ton of hockey assists. It's always like she finds the open person, defense has to rotate because, you know, they were doubled onto her, and that person will then find the person that will score the basket. And so, yeah, it's like you're saying, you bring it up, you know, interesting. Like Atlanta they fired their coach today.
I saw that.
Yeah, which I think is a great move for them. Tanisha Wright, she brought a nice intensity, but I just don't feel like we're moving into a space now where it's like that clipboard matters so much. And there's very few coaches who can elevate, you know, bring their players who already have the athletes, already have all these things, but put them in positions to really, really execute at the level needed.
So that being said, what's your thought on the Sparks? I know they fired their coach, and they've had like 12 or 13 head coaches over their 27-year history, Vinny. Like, it's 2 or 3 years tops, and they're churning these coaches out. So what is it about LA that no one is staying there?
Yeah, LA's an interesting. No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah, LA's an interesting story. It's obviously, you know, an athletic hotbed, and the teams matter. But the interesting, I really think the biggest, there you go. I really think the biggest issue with the Sparks, hands down, is its inability to bring in a star. I mean, fundamentally, the last star they had was Candace Parker, and that was the last championship they had. You know, it's no surprise, really. It's an interesting thing happened this past draft, drafting Cameron Brink out of Stanford, and I'm like, very few people I know are higher on her than I am. Just in terms, I watched her a lot. I follow the University of Utah women's basketball team pretty religiously, and I watched her play them numerous times in person and real close. And I think she changes. She's a unicorn out there. She changes the game in a similar way as Caitlin does on offense, Cam does on defense. So she's really interesting. And And then the rest, I mean, man, Rakia Jackson is also a great rookie as well. She had a great rookie year. When Cam went down with her ACL, which was just super hard to watch, Rakia got the ability to, I mean, really like the green light to just kind of figure her game out. And so I think she's a bright spot. I think they've got really good things in place. They need that star though. And as bad as their season was, I think the one kind of shining light and possibility, if you will, is I don't think they're going to bring in like a big free agent class unless they get that number 1 pick. And if they do get the number 1 pick, it's going to be Paige Beckers, which if you're talking, bringing a star power, somebody that not just handles a business on the court, but off the court,
right?
Nobody better.
And it's weird to talk about an LA team not having star power.
Right.
Like that just feels weird. Like Vinny has heard this for 1,000 times, so he's going to hear it one more time. Like the Lakers are basically, give us 2 top 10 players and we'll figure this out. Like we'll give us 2 of the top 10. And we know what the Dodgers are doing. We could talk about Ohtani's season and everything like that. Even the Rams have had some flashes of greatness, but to hear like, even the Kings, right? Bringing in Wayne Gretzky going way back and things like that. But to hear that the Sparks, like, it's LA, like they can't get over that hump. One question for you.
Yeah.
Where are you on like the sky? Like, what is it? Because Weatherspoon gone after just one season. A lot of times the team just looked disjointed.
Sure.
Like toward the end of games, like they couldn't close out games or anything. But is that all her fault, or it just seems like the organization doesn't know what they're doing? Like trading Mabry, and I'm trying to figure out. Okay, I know this is different, so I don't know. Is this how it goes in the WNBA? I'm just trying to figure out. Like, I don't know how this operates. If that makes sense. Makes
total sense. Teresa Weatherspoon, I think, is an absolute star of a coach. I was blown away they fired her for a number of reasons. I think it would be, for example, in the absolute best interest for the Sparks to take a really hard look at Witherspoon. I think if you're talking about Chicago as a whole, it has to come down to ownership, flat out, because this is a pattern at this point. For example, you talk about Mabry, who is has been one of my favorite players since she entered the league. She's an absolute beast out there. And like her energy she brings outside of just being a great basketball player is so contagious. And the team they had early in the season versus the team they had late in the season, post-trade, 2 wildly different teams. I think you have it's not like Chicago doesn't have the talent. Kennedy Carter, another person who, if you're talking just straight up talent, who can you stay in front of this human being? She's probably the most unguardable player in the league. There's been question marks about her attitude and different things she brings to the locker room, but that's a great example of where Weatherspoon was such a star and such has such an ability to kind of harness that energy. And you saw the same thing. You saw the same thing with Angel Reese and her explosion. I think her confidence, the reason she had such a great rookie season, is almost exclusively due to the head coach she had. And I'm interested to see how that changes next year.
And we don't talk about that enough with young players. It really depends on where you go, right? I think it's unfair just across sports about this person's a bust when it's usually the organization that lets the player down. How many number 1 picks have we seen go to the Clippers, right? Like, it's one of how many, in like Jamarcus Russell on the Raiders. Like, part of that's him, but part of it's the organization as well. And so when I ask about Chicago, it's like for most of the season, I'm like, well, they don't have a point guard. Like, they're getting points, but it's either Kennedy making it happen, which you can, or Reese, really dominating the offensive board. That was their offense.
That was their offense.
Like my wife is a novice when it comes to basketball, so I'm kind of explaining to her, the high post, weak side, things of that nature. But you really need a point guard, like you're talking about with Caitlin and other great point guards. We need to get some extra easy buckets. We need to get 8, 9, 10 points easy.
Yep.
And without a point guard, that doesn't happen.
No. You take a look, I mean, to that point right there, you take a look at the 4 teams left in the playoffs right now, and you go kind of down the line. Minnesota has Courtney Williams, and New York's got Sabrina Ionescu. You got Vegas has Kelsey Plum, and Chelsea Gray's they kind of play this kind of tandem point role, and Connecticut is so interesting because their point guard realistically is Alyssa Thomas, who is more of like a 4, but she's the physically strongest player in the league and plays with this just insane edge that she's a triple-double threat any night. You know, it's like you're saying, creating easy opportunities. It's everything.
She reminds me, Vinny, of Jokic in as much as your power forward is basically running the offense. And because she's had like shoulder issues that she's not going to get surgery on.
In each shoulder. Yeah.
So she can't really shoot. So most of the time it's the shot put of a shot because she can't do a normal shooting motion. And so people back off of her, but she's still able to orchestrate this offense. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy how it I'm like, this probably shouldn't work if your power forwards run the offense and she can't shoot beyond 15 feet. It doesn't sound like it should work, but it works really, really well, obviously.
Really well. And Connecticut's coach, Steph White, does a great job of putting everybody in position to capitalize. But I mean, like, if you're talking about how she's guarded, it's a great, you know, if you can imagine how Rondo was guarded with, you know, when Boston had the big 3, you imagine how Ben Simmons was guarded in Philly when he had a game, you know, it's very similar to that. And like you're saying, it just doesn't feel like it should work, but goodness, does it ever work? Like I'm really high on Connecticut. I think they have the best playoff roster. I think they're the hardest team to beat 3 times in 5 games. And we'll see, if that plays out. But Alyssa Thomas is largely the reason. If you look at actually the Team USA this summer, her toughness and what she brought, not just with her but defensively in particular, and her rebounding ability, like I think she was one of the 2 or 3 difference makers, you know, that ended up winning them the title. Or
that gold medal game looked like in complete disarray. I said to my wife, we're watching it, I'm like, it doesn't feel like anybody knows what they're supposed to do. And so Asia's like, I'm going to go get mine. But then it's like, it was so disjointed that anyway, going back. But Alyssa Thomas is a beast. And I'm enjoying like learning these players. You know, we all know the names that go through UConn, right? That's like watching the NBA. We know the people that come through Kentucky and Duke, but it's like finding these nuggets and, you know, Katie Carter from Texas A&M of all places and different things like that, where it's like, oh.
They used to have a squad, though. They won a title with old dude before he left. What's his name? Gary. It was Gary. He was country.
Oh, yeah. I know. With the boots?
Yeah.
He had the boots on?
They had a squad on the women's side.
But all these great – and Zachary, let me ask you, where are you on this expansion? Like, because it feels like now is the time to make this happen. You've got to get from 12. I think they're going to 16 by 2028.
Eventually, 16 by 20, exactly by 28. Yep.
And Houston coming back is. I mean, I'm a Rockets fan, Zachary. All right, so I transitioned right on in when the league started to the Comets winning the first 4 chips. I'm like, hey, this is cool, man. We got the big 3, you know, Hoop, Swoops, Tina Thompson. All right, and then you look up and there's no Comets, and then the Monarchs and the Shock and all these other teams that were, you know. So are the Comets coming back?
They should.
It should. No word yet. I mean, I think the right now we got Golden State's next, the Valkyries, which is, I think, some terrible name. But they're next, and then we got Portland, Toronto, also like established. I know Philly's talking about a team with their new arena they're building. Fingers crossed there, because I'm a diehard Sixers fan, unfortunately. And then I mean, the expansion I think is so incredible. You know, in like the NBA, you have, you know, a 15 man roster, right? And you can basically sit 3 or you know, designate 3 to not play, and then you're 12 deep. In the WNBA, it's a 12 cap roster, so you only have currently 144 players, and you're talking to just the top women's basketball league in the world. It's so much talent that doesn't make a roster every year. And it's not a surprise when like you see this a lot. You'll see player. I mean, this year in particular, there's multiple 27-year-old or older rookies, or foreign players. Julie Van Leeuwen in Washington's a great example. Saw her on Team Belgium this summer, and she's one of the flashiest, most fun games you'll ever see. And she's a 31-year-old rookie, and it's like there's so much talent out there. Not to mention the talent coming into the league. I don't think people really understand. Caitlin was like a good tipping point. I think before her it was Breanna Stewart, right? Like I saw my first Final Four I ever went to actually was Breanna Stewart versus Kelsey Plum. And I
hate to interrupt you, but Breanna Stewart, one day I went to her Wikipedia page and just look at her awards. Vinny, remember I talked to you about this.
Mm-hmm.
And like since her senior year of high school, except for the year she was injured in the WNBA, she has been first team this, all team this, player of the year. Like that's a resume. That is ridiculous. For the better part of a decade, every time she's played a basketball season, it's been all Big East, not Big East.
Yeah.
AAC.
That
weird year
that's right.
But Breanna, like, I knew she was cold. I didn't know it was quite like this. Like, this is a resume, buddy.
4-time collegiate champion, 4-time most outstanding player of the year, 4-time Final Four MVP. I mean, like her collegiate career, I think will never get touched. I mean, and if you're talking her pro career, she's got, I think 3 titles or 2 titles right now. And New York could very well win it again this year. 2 MVPs. She's up there. And you take her, right? You take her and she comes into the league and she doesn't have the star power that Caitlin had, but she definitely brought a different element, a different game, get that stretch big. And you're seeing that on pretty much every team now. And then Caitlin brings this just this whole, kind of the Steph style shooting and a different type of passing. And then we've got, coming in 2, you got Paige coming next year, and in 2 years, Malaysia Fulwiley from South Carolina, who's just raw as can be. And my current and ultimate favorite player I've ever seen in college is Juju. Wow.
Juju, I was gonna say you gotta put Juju out there. Yeah, she cold, man.
I can't describe. I just can't describe how good at basketball she is. It's crazy. It's so crazy. I saw her play at the University of Utah last year. First time I ever saw her in person. And I said, okay, let me see. I'm front row. I'm like, let me see what this is about. And they lost. USC lost by like 20. She had 27 of like their 53. It was something crazy, something like that. And she's just the most skilled, physically gifted women's basketball player I've ever seen in every way. Everything she can do off the dribble, with her jumper. She broke her finger on her right hand this year. She did everything with her left for, I think, like a month and a half. So I'm excited to see how that translates. And to think about the fact that she was 18, 19 last year and would have legitimately averaged 12 to 14 in the W. And averaged 27 as a freshman. Like I just can't wait. My fiance and I just got season tickets to USC women's basketball this year for her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great. I've got 2 daughters. One's playing lacrosse in college. The other one's still in high school playing field hockey. And so, I tell people, I'm late to the women's sports thing, right? I used to be that guy like, and yes, having daughters has changed me. I'm all girl dad and all this kind of stuff. But for me, it's having these conversations with my daughters where it's like the WNBA has gone from this niche to like, buddy, you better pay attention to what's going on. Like all these names are becoming household names. That's where it should be. That's where we want this to be. We want the women's Final Four to actually be the Final Four in March Madness. We want the WNBA to do their thing. It's fantastic.
It is. And what's so interesting is like just to watch it as it's kind of, to watch it realistically when it was kind of nothing and a struggling league to the success it currently is. And I think it will be, moving forward. For one, the narrative change has been so fascinating. So like the current talk is, there's a lot of toxic energy there. There's a lot of, we're seeing race brought forward in a whole different way than it's always been a thing, but it hasn't been like at the forefront. But I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, how many times did I hear, in the past 5-10 years, the one phrase that kind of drove me crazy forever: we need to lower the hoop. And I haven't heard that since Caitlin's kind of like explosion. I was like, I have not heard people say like, oh, they should lower the hoop to make it more exciting for dunking and all these things. And it's like, it's just proof that never had to happen. You know, that some people are always going to find something to kind of complain about. And I was the same with you in terms of just like, I just didn't get it. I was like, this doesn't really like excite me. I don't see what the intrigue is here. And realistically, the reason I thought that was I hadn't watched. It's that simple. I started watching and I started being around it and being a part of it. And I was like, wow, I will happily admit to being wrong.
I think when it comes to women's basketball, basketball is very intimate, right? Like the floor is smaller than like baseball or football. The fans are right there. You're wearing a tank top and shorts, so it's a very intimate game. And when you got people watching the WNBA for the first time, you've got women being really, really physical, right? Like we're used to Simone Biles and all them. They got the glam and all this kind of stuff. And, swimming is this, that, the other. But now we got women setting hard screens. And it takes a little bit to be like, they can be just as physical. I've learned, like watching my girls, like, this is pretty physical stuff. And so I think the old guard, give the new people a little bit of time to get acclimated to what's going on, because it is different. Of course, you're not going to see the dunking and all that kind of stuff, but there's other things you can look at and say, oh, this is great. Like, I've not seen a basketball team do what we were talking about Minnesota's done like in forever.
Yep.
Like, it's so fluid. Oh, you're hot? Here you go. Like that Castleton, had like 3 or 4 threes in the fourth quarter against the Fever. It's a beautiful game to watch. Even the teams that don't win a lot, I like watching the Wings play.
Sure. Oh,
because Arike is ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
And her performance in the All-Star game. Like, and what I tell my wife, she's upstairs listening, is what I like about basketball more than anything else is when you've got somebody that's like, I'm going to give you these buckets, right? It's not like baseball where you got to wait, 20 minutes for Ohtani to get another at bat, right? Or the NFL, you got to wait for, your quarterback got to get the ball back. It's basketball. It's like, I'm coming. I'm going to get this rebound. I'm going to keep coming. What are you going to do about it? I love it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, that moving, it's realistic. It's a moving chess match, at all moments. And it's, you talk about, I personally think it's the most challenging game to coach because of that. Like there's, if you're talking about like, I think you see a lot of turnover in the NFL coaching wise in particular, just because it's such they give you no time type of league. But with basketball, I think you can get exposed a lot faster than other sports in a kind of unique way. Dallas is crazy. Dallas is a really interesting. Latricia Trammell, their coach, actually came from the Sparks. She was an assistant coach of the Sparks, and I am just the biggest fan of her. She's the type of just a player's coach, really instills belief. And the biggest reason they struggled so badly this year was their unicorn themselves, Satu Sabali, was out most of the year with a shoulder injury. She came back after the playoffs, and that team is built for the future. And they messed around and had a terrible, terrible, terrible season. We'll have a top 4 pick. And so if you're talking like what teams to look out for and the teams to like who could actually challenge for a high playoff spot next year that did not make the playoffs this year, hands down, it's Dallas. And Arike is just, she's unbelievable.
So I'm just coming back with, basic questions. I apologize. But we're at the conference finals now, the semifinals. Why is it the East team against the West team? Why isn't it the Minnesota and Las Vegas and New York and Connecticut? Why we got cross matches? Why is that?
Yeah, totally. Simply just because there aren't enough teams right now, so they'll just do a playoff bracket of 1 through 8, and then playoff seeding that way, and that's how they'll organize it. It's funny though, like they go first round, 3 rounds total off of 8 teams. First round's best of 3, second round's best of 5, finals is best of 5, and one of the things I'm interested to see is you talk about this expansion that's going to be coming up. How are they going to change the playoff, landscape? Because I think best of 3 is it's a real shame. I think there's an opportunity to turn that into 5 and maybe even turn the finals into 7, and get real, if you get the league to 16, 18 teams eventually.
Because I think in the first round, sorry, Vinny, but you want to give those lower seed teams like Indiana, give them a home game, right? Reward those fans for selling out. It's very reminiscent, Vinny, of when the Bulls were on their run and they would play that first round game against the Nets, right? The first round series. So their fans would always get one game to see Michael Jordan in the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think they need to do that. But I think with the expansion, I want to get your thoughts on this, Zachary. My wife and I are talking about how does the WNBA alter their calendar? Because it's a very weird place to have a basketball league starting in June, right?
Yeah.
Because your rookies basically get like 2 weeks of training camp.
Yeah.
And then toward the other end, how deep into the NFL season do you want to go?
Yep. Yep.
That's always the question mark is, it's October now, but like, do you want to go to November? Right.
Yes.
Like, I think that's gotta factor in. How do we do this? Or you get to a situation where do you try to play basketball during quote unquote basketball season? Right. What does that look like as far as arena availability and things like that? So a lot of things. Where are you kind of on the calendar with the WNBA?
No, it's such a great point, honestly. And like, I mean, realistically, how it works right now is you have the NCAA Women's Championship, and the draft, it takes place a week later. And then 2 weeks after that, training camp starts. And, 2 weeks after that, you're in the season. So it's like you have no off season coming from, you haven't even graduated school yet if you're a senior, as a women's basketball player, and you get drafted. And I think there's the good and the bad. The good with that is it's coming right after, especially in these past 2 years, that's come right off the heels of Caitlin absolutely hooping, and putting up record numbers of viewership for the Final Four, more than the men's even. Mm-hmm. And you take that momentum, carry it right into the pro league,
right?
Which is great. I think a serious problem, and what you've seen, what's happened in the past though, is I think Cam Brink is a great example here. No time to rest, and you put players at risk physically, in that scenario. And so I think there's also another interesting thing that happened this offseason was the Olympics, which essentially added like a month-long break that wouldn't be there. Mm-hmm. It's currently a 40-game season. Right. And, you extend it to 18 teams. I think that 40 games gets pushed to around 50. I'm of the belief the more I'm seeing this product and the more I'm seeing this product get better and better. And I'm always of the belief of protecting the athletes. And I think it's worth exploring what a WNBA season during, quote unquote basketball season looks like. I think definitely you're going to run into some issues, arena availability and things like that. That has to get worked out. But if you're able to skirt that, I just, it's so funny. I've been so caught up in the W that I didn't realize the NBA preseason starts this weekend. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, how great. And so that's the other part, is like the NBA starts right after the W right now. And that's a beautiful thing too. Do you want them running at the same time? It's a tough one.
Right. Cause you've got a lot of franchises that use the same building.
Yep.
So, that's one of those things you have to talk about, can the Sparks and the Lakers coexist?
Exactly.
At Staples, Vinny. I'm not saying crypto at Staples, right?
Well, they shared it with the Clippers who are getting their own. Surely they can work it out with the Sparks, because the Clippers aren't going to be there anymore. So
that's right. They got their
some
new arena.
frees up some
Good
dates
for them. Good for them.
Yeah,
There won't be anything in those rafters and whatever that new arena is for the Clippers.
for a while.
I'm throwing shade, Zach. As you can see, I'm a Lakers fan, so I spend a lot of time throwing shade at the
I love it. Nothing wrong with
Clippers. So as we kind of weave our way in, like who do you think is going to get the championship in the WNBA this year? Because I know Liberty up 2-0, the other series is 1-1. So who's going to get your nod to meet up in the finals, and to who's going to get that chip?
It's interesting. Minnesota, the Lynx won the Commissioner's Cup, which is kind of the WNBA's in-season tournament. The NBA really took from, and this is the best I've ever seen them. I think they're the deepest team in the league right now. With that said, I'm going to stand firm on Connecticut. I think this series goes 5, and I think Connecticut wins in 5. Just that's a team that's you're going to be physically hurting after every single game you play, and 2 days later you're playing them again, and it's just I don't see how Minnesota, as long as Connecticut can knock down some threes, how Minnesota can physically stay in that series. So if it is Connecticut, on the other side, New York has Vegas's number. Vegas is not deep enough this year, not remotely deep. Asia's the greatest women's player there's ever been currently, but they just aren't good enough. New York is deep. They've got Brianna, they've got Sabrina. I think a Connecticut-New York series goes 5 also, and I would be screaming at the TV for great basketball, because I think that's all that's going to happen. I'm going to firmly state, though, I think Connecticut Sun wins the championship this year.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
There you go. I think you have to put in those kinds of storylines, right? You're getting all this fervor, you're getting all this excitement, and now it's up to the players to deliver a product, right? When you look back at, okay, when did these things become a thing? And what I mean by that, when did the Super Bowl start becoming a thing, right? When the Jets upset the Colts in Super Bowl III, right? When did the NBA Finals become the finals? Like, not tape delayed, right? Is when Bird and Magic gave us something to watch, right? Like, we're like, okay, we have to watch this, and way back whenever the World Series became the World Series. But you've got to be able to deliver. And so far, I would say that the players on the court have delivered with all this attention. Yeah. There's a team that's for you. There's a player that's for you. There's a style of coach that's for you. Yeah. All that's right there. Whatever you want to do. So you better find a team, Vinny, until your comments come back.
Yeah, I'm kind of like you when the Expos went away and you're kind of moving around. You were Orioles for a minute, and then you were like, should I be with the Nationals? And so I'm looking, and I'm not feeling an attachment. I'll see. Maybe I'll pick somebody until the comments come back.
We're a fever household. Like I said, I'm here in Des Moines. Oh, sorry. West Des Moines is where Caitlin Clark is from. That's the same area town my wife is from. So we're all in on the fever just for that reason. Yeah. But I'd really like the way Minnesota plays.
Right there with you. I in terms of picking a team, that is a big deal. And yeah, I think that's something to take some time with. I will say they're this expansion draft that's coming out. I think it's scheduled for December 6th now. Mm-hmm. It's going to be really interesting because pretty much everybody's available. Every team can only protect 6. And so you're talking, 6 of 12 rookies are included in that. So like there's going to be a lot of talent. They're going to get a lot of there's a great chance that San Francisco or Golden State, I guess, is comes prepared next year with a fun young team that can compete. I think they're one to watch.
Yeah, they might end up, Vinny, like how the Panthers and Jaguars came in within a few years. They're in the conference title game. So and that's great too. Yep. If you've got an expansion team, depending on how quickly they can get up and running, right? That's the difference between the Grizzlies and the Raptors. The Grizzlies, nobody wanted to be there. The Raptors get Vince Carter, right? And that becomes viable, right?
100%.
All this stuff kind of is interconnected.
It really is.
Yeah, it'll be the same thing as the Vegas hockey team that went to Stanley Cup Finals like right off the bat.
Won, yep.
Yeah. So where you at? We Kentucky fans. So what? You just mentioned the Dream fired their coach. So what you expect going forward for our girl Ryan Howard? She was a stud, a beast at Kentucky. Had some good things that she's already done in the league. Now she's got to transition to a new coach. So what do you see for her?
Yeah, I think Ryan Howard's such a fascinating player. She's Olympic bronze medalist in the 3-on-3, which is really cool to watch. I am just such a fan of how she's grown every year she's been in the league. First year was like this, you could see the talent, but she forced a lot. Second year is kind of locked in a little bit. Shot selection got a little better. And this year, pre-injuries was really putting it all together. You're talking about, I think Tanisha Wright did not have a system built around Ryan Howard. And I think one of the biggest reasons, Atlanta had a really talented team, actually, just 1 through 5 had some interesting players off the bench. I don't think they ran a system to get their best player of the basketball remotely close to enough. And if I'm Atlanta and if I'm Ryan in particular, I'm hoping for a coach that plays offensively with some type of space, because she's so good. She's so good with the ball in her hands, and she's so good in ISO situations. She's so good off the catch. Anything that creates some type of movement for her is going to be huge. Creating space, creating movement, and so I'm very high on Ryan Howard. I would be surprised if she's in Atlanta too much longer, though. That's going to be my big guess there. I think there's a real chance that she gets moved soon, because she's and for some really valuable pieces.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I just got a couple of things. You already mentioned you're a big Sixers fan. So how do you see, their window? Because, I got Max's up there.
Yep.
Embiid, we want to even if you're not a Philly fan, you just want to see that dude healthy.
That's it. Yep.
Strength in the playoffs, so y'all can see what you got. Last time he was healthy, maybe that, I hate to bring it up, the Kawhi boom shot, drop. So how you feeling? Y'all got PG now. How you feeling, man? How you feeling today?
Oh man, the life of a Sixers fan is interesting. I went to Toronto this summer for the first time, and I walked right after I got off the plane. I walked through the airport. The biggest, I'm talking a 40-foot picture of Kawhi hitting that shot in the airport, and I was just like, oh, this is tough. I am so high on the Sixers, though. I love Nick Nurse. Just to start, I think he has brought an entire different energy to the team. Can Embiid be healthy? I mean, that's just what the season will inevitably come down to. It sounds like they're really prioritizing doing whatever it takes. I love what he said yesterday about there's no motive here. There's no, all-star MVP, all NBA. His entire goal is to be healthy during the playoffs. So whatever that takes to make that happen, they're going to do. Obviously Maxey is, you talk Kentucky, good Lord, that guy, what a player, and his work ethic's unbelievable. He had Rose in an interview this morning. He said, someone asked, what's what have you been working on this offseason? He said a bunch of things. He said, but I also changed my hairstyle so I can see now. And I actually think that's going to make a little bit of a difference, regardless of how good he already was. He said when he got into the paint, things got hectic with his hair. So that's good. And then, Yassabule from France in the gold medal game, it's a great player to come off the bench. Mm-hmm. I think Paul George has a 1.5 window, 2-year window to be who he is. So we got to capitalize soon. I just think the core is in place. I really like our bench depth. Can the guy stay healthy? I'm not sure. If so, I think we can compete. I just want to see us get to an Eastern Conference Finals. We can do that. Anything's possible. That's my goal.
Yeah. Beat Boston. That's all I'm asking.
Beat Boston. Oh, please beat Boston.
Please.
So I'm gonna circle it back. I mentioned I'm a Rockets fan.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go old school, but basically, you said you're from Salt Lake City, so is all the things Mad Max said about y'all true? all the shade Vernon Maxwell throws at Utah is sound like you agree with him.
Yeah. I have very little positive if you want to see a beautiful place like scenically, Utah is awesome. If you want to spend time around just kind of like ugly individuals, that's and not like physically ugly, like internally ugly. You do not want to, it's like if you're talking about like an NBA team, just what a boring city to be in. You hear that a lot, like visiting teams just they don't like going there because there's just not.
Then how'd they get that All-Star game? Like the All-Star game, like in Utah,
real.
Like really?
No idea.
Everything closes at 8:00. Like that doesn't seem like the NBA's get down.
Right.
To be in Utah, like Utah, really?
Yeah, no, for real. Such a boring city. And then like you hear it. I'm not sure there's a team in the league whose fans get banned more than Jazz fans for like racial slurs or doing, just saying crazy things. And so Utah is Donovan. I think Donovan said it best when he left to go to Cleveland. Donovan Mitchell, he was just like, it felt good being around more people that viewed me as more than a basketball player. And he said a big reason for that is because there were more people who looked like him. And I don't think that's a surprise. Yeah.
So it's a Raptors earned, it's like you said, you've heard it. You've always heard it. We had Bernie Bickerstaff is from my same little hometown in Kentucky.
Oh, cool.
And we asked him about it. Like, he was real diplomatic. He didn't like, he just kind of sidestepped it, but I mean, it's just it's a well-known secret. If whatever, it's everybody knows it. You hear it, and it can't all just be everybody making stuff up.
No, I can assure you it's not.
Well, man, Zachary, you're a friend of the show now, so we got to get you back on here whenever the schedule allows to talk some more W and expansion. And you and Terry went deep, and I was just listening to y'all. And
I'm all in. Like, I mean, honestly, with this season, I mean, I bet we would watch, like, not even the Fever games, just one game a night or a little bit of this, because, like I told you, Vinny, I can't formulate how does this league work, right? Like how do the play? Like, it's just I had to be totally immersed in it, and I think Dallas was the one team it took forever to see. Like, they were either playing at the same time as the Fever or we kept missing. I'm like, we really need to see Dallas. But we saw all of them, got to know all these players, not just the stars, right? Like the stars that are on ESPN for whatever your league is, do we really need to break down Patrick Mahomes at NFL, right? No. But, you look at, this running back, he may not start, but he's cold, right? Or this role player off the bench for your favorite team in the NBA, like that's the nuts and bolts that really makes it for me. Your stars are going to be stars. It's those moments where this person you ain't even really paid attention to, that's what gets you over to the championship thing. Like exactly like you're talking about, Asia's been Asia, but is somebody going to help?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's it.
And Vinny, you know that back when the Rockets went back to back, it wasn't just Akeem, but it was Kenny Smith going for 30. It was Otis Thorpe deciding to go 20 and 20. It was Sam Cassell, Robert Horry. Like that's what it takes to get over the hump. Even Shaq and Kobe, you needed some shots from Derek Fisher. You needed some shots from my man Rick Fox. Yeah. You needed Robert Horry against Sacramento, right? That's the kind of stuff that you need.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to learn with the WNBA. And plus, they all in on the fashion. My wife likes all that with the fashion, and it's a different vibe.
It really
but
is.
I love it. I love it.
Same here. It's just one of those things you just spent, dedicate some time to, and I cannot stress enough. Watch Juju. Like if there's anything you take away from this, it's watch Juju at USC this year. It's gonna be a show, absolute show.
I did watch. It was one of those games because, again, we had to watch all the Caitlin Clark games, but it was the game after, and it was Juju. I can't remember who it was.
UConn, yeah. Juju,
but not in the it was just it was not. I did watch like in the tournament, but this was like just a random February game. And I remember hearing Juju's name. I said, okay, I got it on ESPN anyway. And I was like, a word?
Yeah.
And that's the thing is what I want to tell these old heads, Gino and some others, like, okay, there are those of us that are new to the W, but we know basketball. And
Exactly.
you can watch somebody do something for like 4 or 5 minutes, just watch this player like, oh, okay, this person's different.
Yep.
And for me, it was watching Caitlin in person, and it was a pass she almost made. And I was like, you got to be crazy to even think you can pull that off.
For that to even go through their head, yeah.
Right. It's not even the plays that hit, right? That's like some of MJ's best plays are the dunks he didn't get all the way down, right? It's the layups that rolled off, right? It's those misses that you're like, oh, okay, this person's different, right? Yeah. I had a professor at some point was talking about it's the wrong note theory. Like you can be listening to a musician and they can hit a wrong note, and it's how does that wrong note make you feel? Like if you had a Prince concert and Prince hits a wrong note, you're like, okay, Prince worked. But somebody else might hit you a little bit different. It's that wrong note where even if they do something wrong, you still with it because you recognize everything else that's going on at the same time.
I'm a huge fan of that.
So there you go. Little. I think was it philosophy? I can't remember. I've been in school. Been out of school 30 years. But that's my thing. But Zach, we love to have you. We'll talk about it again. And
definitely. Thanks so much for having me.
And
meet you guys officially.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. We certainly appreciate it, sir.
And you writing or podcasting? I saw the Substack. You're still putting out content about the W2, right?
Not enough, but I this conversation might inspire me to jump back in because I don't know. As you can tell, I'm honestly no sport I'm more passionate about than women's basketball. I just think it has everything a true basketball lover would want.
Tell the people where to find that.
I saw what you talked about with Angel Reese and that notion, like, she's just rebounding Ole Miss. I'm like, that's not what's going on. But my thing is like who you like, whatever, but be honest. Just be honest with what's going on. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Go ahead with your information. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, that's that. The Fadeaway Substack is what that's called. But yeah, I don't know. I more than anything, just tune into the playoffs. It's the best and watch Juju. Those are my notes.
Fair enough. Short and sweet, man.
That's a great way to sum up an hour. We appreciate it, Zachary.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Zachary, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Zachary Jordan. Yeah, man, we've been in them Twitter streets forever. And I just read his I was scrolling, I forget what I was looking for. I think maybe when Zach Lowe got laid off or something, I was typing Zach in the search.
Oh, yeah.
Zachary Jordan comes up, and I'm like, oh, his pinned tweet. If you know me, you know just how much I love women's basketball. That's why I started the Fadeaway, a deep dive on everything women's basketball. I was like, well, let me just see if this dude want to come on.
Yeah.
And so, I know still got your girl from Bally that we can get her, but I was like, well, let me just,
Once we're gonna get Maggie to come back on.
Yeah,
once
Maggie
things kind of calm down and everything like that to kind of overview women's WNBA, Olympics, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But look at that, talking WNBA.
Yeah, that's why I was like, let me see if it come on because I know. I mean, I'm real casual, so I couldn't talk it like that, and so I just wanted to let y'all talk and see if he was able to come on, and it was cool, man. That was good stuff, man.
Now I just love basketball, right? Like I can watch a high school basketball game and get something from it, right? I can watch college, get something from it, NBA, get something from it, because once you understand, okay, these players have these limitations, you can appreciate the nuances, the difference, right? There's a difference between NFL and college. There's just these differences between the College World Series and the regular World Series, right? There's different things that you can appreciate from both, and that's where I am. But we got to jump in
for sure
to what happened down in Oxford, Mississippi.
In our way for a change.
We've talked a lot of times that Stoops is just missing that signature plant your flag win, right? Mm-hmm. I know, beating Florida, That's one thing, I guess, ending that streak. But he needed something to break our way.
Yeah.
And so it was, for me, the game plan worked to perfection. And I would hope that moving forward, that's how we operate. I said this, I tweeted this out during the game. Like, everybody wants 500 yards offense, but that's not really the best Stoops teams.
Yeah. That's true.
We are going to punch you in the face for 60 minutes.
Yo.
That has to be our mantra on both sides of the ball. Because I had some 49ers fans watching that game, Jesse Reed, who we need to get back on, and he was like, Kentucky's controlling the line of scrimmage. Like, we controlled the clock. Like, we had like 15, 16 more plays than Ole Miss. That's ridiculous when you look at the style of play. And so outside of that first drive, Ole Miss wasn't Ole Miss. You can only do that tempo if you don't have big number 0 in your face. Right? And so to Lane Kiffin's credit, he said before the game, like, hey, we ain't played nobody like this. So it looks like the fluke was the South Carolina game.
Yeah.
That appears to be the outlier with these games. So my concern as we move forward is, can we bring that intensity the rest of the way? Because that's what you got to do. That can get us to 8 wins.
And still on track. They're still where we thought they were. I think we both have them losing losing Ole Miss, beating South Carolina.
Right. So you're still kind of where you're supposed to be. You play tough against Georgia. But man, that fourth down play to Berrien, I mean, what? I was watching at Mama B's house, and I try to be very, very good watching these games and my profanities and my excitement. So which is weird because I watched the Ole Miss game there. That's where I was watching the Super Bowl. But fourth and whatever it was, and to go with Berrien down there somewhere, I might have said a few words. I mean, and so I've got no problem with Stoops playing conservative, right? Because that's how you keep these games close. But you have to sprinkle in your shot. Like you can play it close to the vest, but at some point you have to just, we're going to win this. And I think that fourth down call, like we've had Anthony White on the show talking about, there are plays that everybody feels good about. You call this play, quarterback's like, I can hit this. Offensive line's like, we got this. Receivers like, I'm going to go get this ball, right? You've got to call that play and just, wow. I mean, just took it out of them. And then with that missed field goal, woo, buddy. So just a great win. A great win.
You had, Willie Rodriguez laid out the dude on the opening kick, and we thought we had a turnover. And then, like you said, they drove right down the field, and that was it. After that, Kentucky put the clamps on them. Berrien, the fourth and on their own 19, was it? On their own.
And even the commentator was like, well, this is what, you're just going to try to draw him off. And I'm like, what? And then as he's saying that, the ball snapped. And my first thought was like, what is going on? Like, what? I ain't gonna lie. When the ball snapped, that's when my first profanity come out. Because I was like, well, shit, what? Like, and then I'm watching it. And then, Brock just heaves it. And I'm like, who down there? It is one of those, it felt like a movie because it felt like the ball was in the air a long time. you know how the movies give you those shots, the quarterback throws it, and then you get a shot of the receiver, and you get a shot of the coach, and you get a shot of the cheerleaders. Like it felt like forever, and then he got it and did some more with it. I'm like,
stayed in bounds too, man. I thought he was gonna call him out at when he caught it, but he,
you know, Dane Key was a beast.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just yeah,
yes, sir.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, it was just one of those. It felt like it took forever for the ball to get there, and I was like, "Oh,
couldn't have handed it to him any better." I mean, you couldn't have just.
When in doubt, go to Brown. When in doubt, we got a Brown down there somewhere. So that's why I did those tweets, burying and Terry. You know, Brown's making some poor decisions because he got that personal foul penalty.
I still never saw what he did.
Just jaw jacking.
He just said something.
Look, man, all I got to say is Louisville's banned, jaw jacked at him, and then the next thing he did was take that place of the rock. Ole Miss jaw jacking. Next thing he do, he leave that boy alone. Like I don't look. We could talk about he may be underwhelming and this. Like leave that boy alone because he come out with a chip with something to prove, which is a lesson. Don't aggravate the Browns.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a life lesson there.
They set him up.
But the defense doing that without Hairston.
Yeah.
Like, I mean.
Hey, it's Coach Collins, our guy, Coach Collins, coached them boys up in the secondary, man.
You know, I did put this on Facebook for Saturday night into Sunday. Let's not look back at South Carolina. Let's not look ahead. Just enjoy this, right? But I do get the frustration where it's like, we know what this team is capable of, right? You're standing toe-to-toe with Georgia, right? Alabama didn't shut. Who's the fastest of the Browns? Okay, Barry and Antonio Terry. Who's the fastest of the Browns? As I tweeted out when Barry had that touchdown against Louisville, I have not seen a Brown run that fast since I backtalked Mama B back in 1985. So depending on the circumstances.
Yeah. Talk about Browns making bad decisions.
Yeah, that was a bad decision. But hey, but Barron's doing it. But I really like Dane Key's play to become that. Like, hey, it's coming to you, and making plays, drawing penalties. He's shown to be the real deal. So
that touchdown, that first, it was all. I mean, all just hands. Just hands all the way down to the ground, and he choked the life out of the ball and wasn't about to drop it, and so because that's back-to-back 100-yard games for him because he against Ohio, a good game, 8 catches, a buck 05 Saturday and a touchdown. So and then,
build off that momentum,
and then Ole Miss hits the big 4th down of their own to get in, deep. When our guy just, I don't know, he didn't
lost it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, and then my thing is not like this because, going to overtime, it's all about how you go in, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's 50-50 if it's tied, midway through the 4th quarter. But one team I don't need to see the numbers on this, but like the team that sends in overtime, they got that momentum, right? Like, They got that. So I was like, not like this. Because it was one of those things where it's like, we as a fan base, we need this one to break our way. And it rarely ever happens.
Yeah. JJ Weaver got a sack. He almost forced a fumble on the sack.
Yes.
And then Deion Walker's offsides when they pop him and he fumbles. I'm like, oh, Lord, they gave him another chance.
Because that Dan Wolken tweeted out, I think right there, like, how many times have Kentucky fans seen this? I was like 50-11. We've seen this a lot, man. Like, we have seen defeat come from the jaws of victory a lot. It feels like a lot. I don't know what the numbers say. I just know what I've witnessed, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
I felt like I think you said it countless times with your Niners and these Super Bowls, how you just kind of numb, I was numb on the 4th and 7 when they went for it. I was numb the whole time. So
I thought when they first started lining up to go for it, I was like, oh, Stoops just messing with us to prove a point. Y'all want me to go for it? Here you go. And I'm like, well, this is a weird way to trick off a game, but okay. Like, okay. But just to have the stones to do it,
Yeah.
the execution, I mean, that's just great. And for Ole Miss to have a chance at a field goal, that would have been cruel because you have to win when you make that play. You convert that 4th and 7 and 8, whatever it was, that you have to win.
Mm-hmm.
Like the universe, like you got to win this one.
Yeah.
So
and the shots of their crowd, they look like we look when Barron hit. They were devastated.
Hey man.
So I said that's how we always look most of the time.
Lord forgive me. Seeing sad opposing fans, yes.
Yeah.
Look, I love when my team wins on the road because there's nothing like all those other fans being sad on the way out. Like I love that. Talking about the times covering the Louisville, Kentucky game, the one with Benny Snell and Josh Allen, that wasn't a game after the first quarter, and Louisville fans left, and you had that little segment of blue.
Yeah.
Like, and we all know on TV the "Go Big Blue" chants when we in somebody's arena. That's fantastic. But to see that look of, I can't believe this is happening. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
It's right up there with my Niners winning in Green Bay in the snow.
Yeah.
All those Packer fans had to sit outside for 5 hours in the snow and cold just to see Jimmy G walk off the field. Like, that is awesome. Yeah. I love that. That is my everything. Some people particularly like in the NBA, you want to see your team win at home. Heck no. I want them to put out the trophy presentation on the home floor. That is great. That is the best.
Speaking of NFL, man, I don't correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if I've seen you as frustrated with your Niners as you were tweeting about them when the Rams game where they had, talking about coming from ahead. Y'all talking about whole homeboy need to be off the team because he dropping touchdowns. I ain't never seen
Ronnie Bell. Yeah, because he was muffing kicks last year. And it's one of those things, if he just catch it, keep it moving, the Rams can't do what they need to do. Like the 49ers are interesting because I'm holding out hope that the window is still open. But it looks like Detroit might be a modicum better. My thing is Purdy's dealing. Like, people don't want to admit it. This is a case study in your bias moving forward just because he was the last pick. But I'm like, watch him play because he's doing all this. And our top receiver is Juwan Jennings from Tennessee, who was also a 7th round pick. And our leading rusher, Mason, who was an undrafted free agent.
And
Debo has missed time. Kittle has missed time. Ayuk ain't where he needs to be. Trent Williams is looking a step slow, and the offense is still getting to 30 points because Purdy, he's pretty good. You got it. At some point, it's not smoke and mirrors. This kid has got it. What that means moving forward, like we've got Arizona this coming week. So we got Arizona, then Seattle. If we can get those games, get back in the driver's seat in the NFC West, I'll feel better. But yeah, that Rams game was just, are you kidding me? Because Jennings had a game.
They wasted it. He
had a monster. Yeah. Look, man, anytime you do something and the other person on that list is Jerry Rice, like, okay, like you doing something. And Mason's running hard. And look, I feel they'll make the playoffs, but gotta get healthy. And I don't know what's going on with CMC. He over in Bulgaria somewhere. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know when they realized they had a problem. Like that's my like all of a sudden became a problem. Like right when the season started. Like
Right. Yeah. Played every game last year. Hasn't played one game this year. So, and look, my Cowboys ain't no better. They're a mess too. And this collision course matchup we thought we were going to have in a few weeks might not be as hyped up as we thought because we both sit at 2-2. I mean, our first win was against Cleveland. The Giants went to Cleveland and won. So that tells you how bad the Browns are. We barely beat the Giants, got blown out by the Saints, gave Baltimore their first win. We're getting blown out then, rallied to make it look respectable. It wasn't. Micah Parsons got a high ankle sprain. Marcus Lawrence is on IR. The defense wasn't great with them on the field, and now they're going to be off the field. Brandon Cooks is out. We're going to Pittsburgh Sunday, who's coming off a loss. Got Detroit at home. You mentioned those Lions, how good they are. Got Detroit at home after that. And then we go to Levi's Stadium. So, I mean, my optimism, it ain't looking that great.
It is wild that Sam Darnold and the Vikings are like, what? Sam Darnold, man, football's weird.
Yeah. I mean, he went to Green Bay and carved them up and just, the Saints, the Saints were great. And then they come down to earth and Derek Carr is Derek Carr. But that's after they set Dallas on fire and put almost 50 on us. Then they become the Saints. Who knows?
Yeah. So like I said, I'm still holding out hope that the window is still open, but we got a lot of guys banged up. Fred Warner, who's having a monster year, he's banged up a little bit. But I'm glad to see Bosa. He got his strip sack, to kind of seal that game against New England. So there's still enough talented guys. The secondary is really, really good in San Francisco. So I'm always encouraged. I hope we can get to 10 wins and we'll go from there. There's 10 wins out there. Especially we got the Cowboys.
I mean, it's always I'm always in a position where I can't really refute anything because I don't.
It's been good on this show. It's been good on this show. You haven't been able to really razz me too much. NFL, NBA, I like it.
Clarence Hill from used to be at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram talking about how Dalvin Cook looked good in practice, but they're not going to play him because they still got. I ain't seen much out of Dowdle and the guys we putting out there. I'm like, the offensive line isn't that great either, but I'm like, put Dalvin back there and just let's see.
Kick the tires, see what you got.
Since according to Jerry, we couldn't afford Derrick Henry, even though he wanted to come to Dallas and lives in Dallas in the offseason and ran for 100,000 yards on us when Baltimore came to town. But anyway, that's we can't afford him when he gets $8 million a year with Baltimore, but we can't afford him. Okay, Jerry.
I love Jerry. Just say we didn't want him. Don't be Jerry. Everything bigger in Texas, and now you picking pennies. Now you're looking for coupons. Now you on Groupon looking for a running back. Come on now. Don't insult my intelligence.
Lose to the Packers in the playoffs. All right, we're all in. Then we do nothing free agent wise in the offseason. Then after these two bad losses, he insists the roster is fine. Then the next minute, he's accepting blame for everything. If you don't, he talk out of all sides of his mouth at all times. That's all he does, man. It's ridiculous. But all right. I think I got that all off my chest.
I know it's a therapy session. That's what we're here for.
The NBA is starting back. We got Braun and Bronny at media days. We got Reed Shepherd with a mustache in Houston. So we got all kinds of stuff going on, man.
Tyrese Halliburton and some Gregory Hines tap shoes. I'm disappointed in Jimmy Butler. He just showed up like regular Jimmy this year, like no braids or Jerry curl or whatever he was doing. Like I was a little disappointed. But
he was, he set the bar pretty high these past few years, and
But as I always say, Lakers, we'll see.
Yeah. Yep.
They're going to be on TV a lot, so I'll get a chance to see them a lot.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I've had 49 national televised games. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Year 6 of LeBron and AD. That's crazy, man. That's wild right there in itself.
Yeah. But I mean, if you look at what LeBron has done in LA, it's still pretty good. Points per game, and he's been all NBA. And I saw this is going back and forth on Lakers Twitter, like, look, LeBron is not a Laker legend. I don't know how else to explain it, but he ain't.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me. I'm very stringent when it comes to that.
That's right. Speaking of, I got to get our little word from our sponsor, and I went to play it after Zach was on. I almost forgot, but let me do that before we put a bow on this show. Got TV back, but we'll be right back, y'all. Hang on.
You got 5 on it? With the $5 meal deal at McDonald's, you about to eat. Your choice of a tender, juicy McChicken or a hot, cheesy McDouble sandwich and a crispy 4-piece McNuggets and a small fries and a small drink for just $5. Woo. 5 gets you more at McDonald's. Prices and participation may vary. For limited time only. With the $5 meal deal at McDonald's, 5 hits different. 5 gets you a McDouble or a McChicken and a small fry and a small drink and a 4-piece McNuggets. 5 gets you more at McDonald's. Prices and participation may vary. For limited time only.
And we're back. Meant to get that in earlier, but always go to McDonald's and get that $5 meal deal. So appreciate the BS3 Network.
I like McDonald's, man. Every Sunday I get McDonald's. Every Sunday I go to McDonald's. This is what I do every Sunday. I go to McDonald's. I get me 2 sausage biscuits with egg. And then I go to, I ain't going to say the other place because they're not advertising, but I get my wife an iced coffee every Sunday. And they know me at my local McDonald's. They call me No Cheese because I do not get cheese on my sausage biscuit. So I'm no cheese.
Because you don't like cheese of any kind, do you?
I eat cheese on pizza, but that's it.
Okay.
That's it. I don't generally eat cheese.
Like
I'm not lactose intolerant. I just don't eat cheese.
Macaroni and cheese, you ain't messing with that. You ain't.
No.
I bet Mama B made a good one too. I bet she made.
My dad made a good mac and cheese. My dad could throw down, from what I understand, because he's like, people are like, oh, it's crispy on the top. Like, hey, that ain't not my thing. I didn't eat it. I didn't eat it. But people, when you have food days at work, most people bring in something with some cheese, right? And everybody's like, oh, here you go, Terry. And I'm like, I don't eat cheese. You got to try my cheesy, dishy McCheese. And I'm like, okay. And hey, I'm the best. I get a scoop, and I'll be like, girl. Like, everybody's like, well, you need to have my cheese. Literally, I don't do it.
I got you. Hey.
The girls have tried to get me to eat cheese. I don't. It's not happening. And I'm like, I'm almost 50. I shouldn't have to try nothing new. Like, I think I've tried enough new stuff. No, that's not true. I had some when I was with my daughter this past weekend, and we had some Korean beef.
Oh.
Bulgogi beef. It was very, very good. So I do try new things, but I ain't trying nothing with no cheese.
You trying no new cheese though. Forget about that.
No, you don't want none of my cheesy No, I don't want any of that. No, I don't do that.
Hey, fair enough, man. Fair enough. You know what you like and don't like. So ain't nobody.
But cats off this weekend. No football this weekend, right? We off until till Vanderbilt. That's going to be the thing, right? How do they come out against Vanderbilt?
Exactly.
You got to come and put them Vanderbilt Commodores away.
Because we struggle way too much, even when they're not good.
Yes.
And so now they're respectable this year. They beat Virginia Tech. People poo-pooed them for losing to Georgia State. Georgia State came to Knoxville and beat Tennessee just a few years ago. So it ain't really, to me, that much shame in losing to Georgia State. I mean, they ain't App State nationally, but they some giant killers.
And basketball's coming up soon. I love it.
It's that time, man. Everything going on. Baseball playoffs on now. I'm gonna watch my Braves probably for the final time because they are talk about injured. They like 49ers injured because they limping out there and dragging themselves out on the field.
And the problem, too, with the 49ers and their injuries, there's that thing in the offseason where they talk about travel days and time, missed from travel, short weeks and things of that nature. The 49ers are always like in a deficit with that. So we're missing that recovery time. We factor in travel and things like that. So, but I'm all right. They're going to be all right.
That's it. And we're going to be all right. We hope y'all will be all right. We'll be back next week. Another episode, man. Cats Talk Wednesday, BS3 Network. Appreciate you. Glad you're back. Glad everybody back in Kentucky was good.
Yeah.
And thoughts to everybody, too, with all the weather from the hurricane, because literally everywhere around me is bad. Like Asheville, North Carolina, I can be there in an hour. That Greene County, Tennessee, where the bridges are going out and collapsing, I get on the interstate, go up 2 exits. I can be in Greenville. We had power gone until like late Friday afternoon, then got it back.
Okay.
Then we had friends coming over who didn't have power coming over, taking showers, and went and helped cut some trees down. And I'm not really a chainsaw dude, but I helped put the broken trees up in the back of the truck. So I did some of that. All around us is bad. And the TDOT stuff and the North Carolina Department of Transportation stuff I've been retweeting, it ain't no joke. And I-40 to Asheville, that's out of commission for a long time. Man, it is
the craziest thing, and I was talking to my barber about this back, is no matter what we do and what we build as man, weather can come and take it away in a heartbeat. Like, it don't matter what you do. When Mother Nature wants to do her thing, there's really nothing you can do.
As far inland as we are, and the fragment of the hurricane did this. So that lets you know how much worse Georgia and Florida and the Panhandle, man, it's
brutal. So yes, thoughts, prayers, help if you can.
Absolutely. So on that note, we'll do our best to be back next week. Tell Kate hello, and we'll do this thing next Wednesday, TB. I'm going to find this little outro button, and I'm going to hit it, and we're going to see y'all next Wednesday.